Yeah, let's start it off with the Bengals. Week 1, they'll play the Patriots this week. Jamar Chase drama is still out there. Yesterday was a big day on Wednesday. He dressed for practice on Wednesday and was listed as limited on the participation report. You guys talked to Joe Burrow. He said it was good to have him back. He said that he's ready to go. He also didn't commit to the idea that Jamar would definitely be playing on Sunday when the game kicked off. So, Skinny, what can we read into all of this? Jamar showing up, the fact that he was listed as limited in the participation report, and the comments you heard from Zach Taylor and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, I think one of two things, that maybe they're getting closer to a deal, and he wants to show good faith by being there on that Wednesday practice, which is an important practice, the first practice of most NFL weeks, first practice if you're playing a Sunday game. So I think that was important to him. And I think the other part of this too, Rick, is I think even if they're not close, and maybe the gap gets closer this weekend, that he wants to be ready to play if indeed something happens. I did a spot on our friend Mo Egger's show yesterday. I do it every Wednesday during the NFL season, and he kind of optimistically said it's signing might play, right? I went, I don't know, because I don't know, and I don't think he knows yet. If there's no deal done, he still has to pull the trigger on that decision, and I don't know where he lands with that yet. I think all yesterday was I don't want to fall behind in game week. I want to show good faith and show up. But him being limited also, for those who don't know why guys are listed certain ways, limited means usually you're just going through individual drills and that's it. So you didn't do anything team related. So he did nothing team wise. I know he's a freak of an athlete, but he's still not in football shape. So even if he does play on Sunday, how many snaps is he able to play? I think there's a lot of things still in question, even if he does play.
So a lot of people have been talking about this Thursday night football. There's, two big names playing. The Bengals did this last year with Joe Burrow's contract, where they announced it right before the first game of the NFL season, Thursday night football. Do you think there's anything to that the Bengals have been holding back this deal with Jamar Chase because they want to release it and steal some of the national headlines away from the first game of the season?
No, I think that would be complete coincidence, because the sides have not been all that close. It's supposedly the gap is closing. So if you were holding on to this, you would have already had basically a deal in place. I think the other part too is, if you already had a deal in place, you want him to practice in full yesterday and not just show up and go through the motions. And so, yeah, I've heard that narrative for a while. Could it happen? Sure, it could happen. But are you going to really waste the only 2 practices you have in a week just to upstage the Chiefs on Thursday night football? The difference for Joe Burrow last year was Joe Burrow was dealing with a calf injury, for goodness sake. So, I don't think that was pre-planned. Maybe it was. And if it was, good for them. They stole a little bit of thunder for 20 seconds. And then everybody went, oh, great. It's the Lions and Chiefs. Let's get back to watching football.
Right. Assuming he is back and playing, let's say he plays Sunday at 1:00 and he's back with the team again. I realize you're saying we don't know if that's the case, but let's assume it is. Yep. How limited do you think he might be? I know it's who knows at this point, but that's got to be a part of the conversation for Sunday's game.
Yeah, I wouldn't think it certainly wouldn't be 100% of the offensive snaps. Maybe some key third downs, red zone, maybe a series here or there. The hope would be, if you limit him to those big situations, that, by the time the second half rolls around, it's 24-3 and you really don't even have to lean into him at all. And I think that's the best case scenario, but it won't be 100% of the snaps. It probably won't even be 50% of the snaps. I would think it would be really limited special situations to ramp him up.
Is there anything else to add to the Jamar Chase drama that's been going on the last month plus?
I'm just fascinated to see what he does do if they don't come to a deal. And I want to see, if they do come to a deal, obviously where that money lands. Does it land in Justin Jefferson territory? Does it land in CeeDee Lamb territory? Is it below both of those guys? Is it 32 mil per year average? Is it 34 mil per year? I mean, that's the other part that's fascinating, because the Bengals obviously have their number, and it's not in the Justin Jefferson, or excuse me, it's not in the Jamar Chase ballpark. It wasn't from the beginning. And so they've come off their number, whatever that number was. It's just a matter of how close the two sides move off their numbers. And I'll be frank, the Bengals don't move very often, Rick. Go ask Carson Palmer how they move. Go ask Andrew Whitworth how they move. Go ask Jesse Bates how they moved. And you can argue in all 3 cases they were wrong to not move, maybe, but they don't move very much.
Yeah. All right, well, the Bengals will take on the Patriots at 1 p.m. on Sunday, the season opener at Paycor Stadium. New Patriots head coach Gerard Mayo announced this week that he's starting veteran quarterback Jacoby Brissett over rookie first-round pick Drake May. Skinny, let's start there. Would you rather face Jacoby Brissett or Drake May?
I'd rather face Drake May, but I understand why they're not playing him. I mean, that is a bad football team with a bad offensive line. And the last thing you want to do if you're New England is get your rookie quarterback beat up. I mean, I know a lot of teams want to throw that rookie in right away. Joe Burrow got thrown in. Justin Herbert didn't, but he got thrown in pretty quickly in with the Chargers. Caleb Williams is getting thrown in this year. But Caleb Williams has actually some weapons around him and a serviceable offensive line. Drake May does not. And so would I rather face the rookie? Absolutely. And I think that would be 99% of the time, no matter how good that rookie might be. I don't think the Tennessee Titans are fearing facing Caleb Williams. I think there's a lot of hype on Caleb Williams. I think he's going to be great. But I think Caleb Williams is also going to look up and go, damn, these weren't the coverages I saw in training camp. These aren't the blitzes they didn't blitz me like this in preseason games. So it's just a different animal. I'd rather face the rookie, but Jacoby Brissett is a journeyman for a reason.
You mentioned Joe Burrow's rookie year. The Bengals threw him into the fire. Bad team, terrible offensive line that year. And lo and behold, he ended up blowing out his ACL. Looking back at that now, was that a positive for Joe Burrow in his career? Like getting on the field early, did it help advance his development? Or do you think given the fact that he had to recover from an ACL surgery, that it set him back?
Yeah, no, I think that was probably good for him. And I think he and Justin Herbert are two of the more NFL-ready quarterbacks, it felt like, coming in the year they came in, and they've proven that. And you've seen a lot of crop of rookie quarterbacks not be able to do some of those things. So I think it's certainly each individual is different. Each individual situation is different. But Joe Burrow looked starter-ready literally from the first practice you watched him in. I mean, he really, truly did.
The Patriots, Skinny, were 4-13 last year. They were tied with Carolina for the worst scoring offense in the NFL. They have the lowest estimated win total in the NFL this year at 4.5 wins. If you're a Bengals fan, we keep hearing about, even without Jamar Chase, the Bengals should be fine in this game. No one's picking anything other than the Bengals to roll in this matchup. If you're a Bengals fan hearing all this and you're the type that likes to get nervous before a game, what should you be worrying about? What is there to worry about with this Patriots matchup?
Tom Brady being airlifted in to play quarterback, and then some of the offensive linemen that he played with, bringing Joe Thuney back from Kansas City. I mean, they have to have Randy Moss in his prime years being morphed back onto this team. That is the point. I mean, listen, you don't need Jamar Chase to beat the New England. If you lose to New England without Jamar Chase, you have bigger problems than not having Jamar Chase. I will promise you that. If Ramondre Stevenson goes for 220 yards on this defense, you are in big time trouble. And I don't think this team is. I think that will they be a ton better against the run this year? Probably not, but I think they'll be better enough. And I think the pass rush will be better. I think the defense will get back to about middle of the pack. And with this offense, that's good enough to me. This is a bad New England team. You lose to them, you got real problems in 2024, man.
Are you looking forward to seeing the Bengals defensive front again? Because this New England offensive line, they've talked about how bad they are and how much they're going to struggle. That's part of the reason Jacoby Brissett is getting the start instead of Drake May. Are you anxious to see we've talked a lot about these frontline guys and how that rotation is going to look? Anxious to see them play a team that they might be able to get off against and make some hay back there? Yeah,
and I'm anxious to also then see what a Joseph Osai in a rotational role can do against guys like this, and a Chris Jenkins, the rookie, who's in a rotational role at the tackle spot. Those are the primary subs. Osai on the outside and Jenkins on the inside. You'll see other guys rotate through there too. But those are the two main guys. So I'm interested to see how those guys do in a game like this. Maybe this is a game that gives them an early jolt of confidence that they can get some things done this year. So yeah, I'm that probably does interest me as much as whether Jamar Chase plays or not.
Yeah. Just looking at the Bengals depth chart that was released, Skinny, were there any surprises there from your perspective, or any things that made you at least raise your eyebrows and say, "Oh, that's kind of interesting"?
Drew Sample being listed as the first team tight end. Now, Zach Taylor was asked yesterday about, Zach Moss being listed as the first running back. And he said, listen, there's one thing I don't like really talking a whole lot about. It's about depth chart, because he said, and he's right, there's times you'll see a depth chart and then, you put a certain personnel package on the field and technically those guys become the starters for that game. I mean, a lot of times on defense, you're starting a nickel group, but against certain teams, you may not start that nickel group. So Mike Hilton may not be listed as a starter that day. You may start an extra defensive lineman or an extra linebacker. In this case, I think this is mostly an homage to Drew Sample being a veteran and putting him there. When all push comes to shove, I think Mike Gesicki gets the majority of snaps at tight end. He's obviously more of a receiver type, and Drew may take the first snap for all I know. So technically he is the starter. It's also, those are the guys that run out of the tunnel when they get introduced as well. So there's something to that. And I think that's probably, if you're a coach, you'd like to pat the veteran on the back that you trust a lot, probably more than fans do. They've made that clear with Drew Sample. And that way he technically is officially listed as a starter, but he may not take the first snap for all I know.
All right, Skinny. Bengals, NFL league wide. It's week 1. Any other thoughts, any other topics you wanted to get to here on the Bengals or football side of things?
It is interesting. So all of us make our predictions that cover the team, and we see national predictions and whatnot. In the AFC, there have been so many different scenarios of picking AFC champions and Super Bowl winners. It's hard for me to go against Kansas City, but I can clearly make a case for the Bengals. I can clearly make a case for Baltimore. I can make a case for Buffalo. People are making cases for the Jets. I could make a case for Miami. And I think in the NFC, I mean, you've got 3 or 4, the Detroit and the Packers. There's a lot of argument which one is the best team in that division. In the West, you got the 49ers, I think, are the best team. In the East, Philly and Dallas. But you can make a real case. Funny part is, when push came to shove, I've got the rematch of last year's Super Bowl with San Francisco beating Kansas City this time. But I get that you can make a case for a lot of teams. And I don't know how closely you've looked at week 1, Rick, as far as lines and matchups and whatnot. There are a lot of tight lines this week, and there's a lot of really interesting matchups.
It's a tough week for betting. It's going to be a great week for watching and being entertained. But if you're trying to make some money and win some bets, it's tough to find a lot of advantages or a lot of lines that look favorable out there.
Yeah, I'm in a bunch of different leagues, some that you use the spread in and some that you just pick games on confidence points. And I found myself picking almost every home team to win. And guess what? I know deep down in my heart that doesn't happen. That's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's not the NFL.
For me to go the other way on a lot of those games.
I get it. I was looking at the same thing last night when I was getting ready for this podcast. So I'm looking for look, the first week of college football, which we're about to talk about here in a second, was excellent. I'm hoping we get the same thing out of the NFL. Just some quality football games to watch throughout the day on Sunday.
Yeah, I will tell you, I'm not getting Peacock. We actually might have it. I don't know. We have so many weird services I don't pay attention to, but I'm not caving. I'll listen to that game on radio if we don't have Peacock. I will.
Let me you do the same thing I do when there's a game on a new streaming service. You flip through it, can't find it, Google it or find online that it's on some service that you didn't know you needed. So then you yell out to your wife and go, "Do we have such and such?" And then she goes, "Yeah, I signed up for that a year ago." And then you use your login.
And we probably do have Peacock for all I know. I honestly don't know the answer to that.
That's how it is every time. I'm always like, "Oh, we don't have such and such." And then my wife tells me or log in for it, and we do, because there was one reality TV show on there a year ago that she watched.
So if I remember rightly, the Kentucky football opener last season's opener, I'm 99% sure was on ESPN Plus, and I swore we didn't have it. And all of a sudden, she comes in the room, goes click, 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 click. Here's the game. I'm like, oh yeah, okay, so we do have it. Great. To your point, that's right. Exactly.
I think that's how it basically works in most married households now. Is the wife controls the streaming accounts, which means we're all paying for like $350 worth of streaming services, probably.
That I watch none of. We watch an occasional show, and I don't know where she finds the show, and we'll binge that show for a while. But I don't pay, literally, if it's not a sporting event on my TV or one of the Law and Order series reruns, I just don't watch.
Yeah, just know that show you watched 2 years ago and haven't watched anything on that streaming platform since, it's been costing you $15.99 a month for 3 years now.
That's exactly right. Yeah. It's crazy. They used to have the service where you take all these different channels, you put it into one giant bundle. What the hell do they call it? Oh, cable. Yes, cable.
Cable, that's it. That stuff was great, wasn't it?
I still have it. I still believe in it.
They tried to rebuild it with the sports packages this year. Now they're getting sued for that. They're in court trying to figure it all out.
That didn't work so good.
Sure, you could stop watching now, but let's be honest, you want to see more. So click some of those links, or better yet, go ahead and tap subscribe. That way you'll catch more content from Local 12.